Welcome to Cryptopia Cast. I am your host, Laudy, and today we are interviewing Chief Topia himself, Sangho Grolleman. Sangho is our CEO, and we're going to be talking about economics, leadership, and something very personal to him, his roots. This is going to be a fun one, so stick around and enjoy the show. Welcome back. Like I said, I am here today and we're going to interview our CEO, Chief Topia himself, Sangho Grolleman. Sangho, thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. It's truly an honor. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here, finally.
Absolutely. Now, I'm sure everyone is interested to know. Tell us more about yourself.
Well, my name is Sangho. I live in the Netherlands, so in Europe, in a city called Haarlem. Maybe the American listeners know about Haarlem because it's a
Yeah.
neighborhood in New York, right? And that was actually named after the city where I live now. So the
Whoa.
Dutch sort of discovered or started a small settlement at the place of New York. So it's near Amsterdam, and yeah, I live here. I like working for Cryptopia, of course. I like gaming, so that's well, we get to talk about that, right?
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
food. I like cooking. I like sports. Well, I like a lot of things basically. So, but it's too much to tell about that.
Absolutely. It seems that you're a man of many things. Now, I'm very intrigued. Your name, that kind of sounds like East meets West. It's Sangho, which I think is a very Asian name, and then Grolman, which is I think a very Western name. How's that like? What's the reason for that?
So you think I'm Asian? So what gave it away that you think I'm Asian? No, yeah, that's right. My last name is by the way pronounced Grolleman. So it's really it's a Dutch grr. So it's Sangho Grolleman. Well, the reason is very 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 easy. I was born in South Korea.
Oh wow.
But I'm adopted, so I was adopted when
Mm.
I was 11 months. Then I went to the Netherlands, so I have Dutch parents, and I'm raised Dutch, but I look Asian, but I was raised Dutch, so that's why my last name is a bit different from my first name.
Well, that's very cool. You get to experience a lot of cultures. Now,
Absolutely,
you have been all over the place, right?
yeah.
Now, from the Netherlands to Thailand to sometimes to Paris to South Korea. How did the pursuit of knowledge take you to all these places?
Yeah, well, it's first of all, it's very funny because Thailand is actually the first place in Asia where I went. So
Mm-hmm.
after my studies, or well, during my studies as the research thesis, I did a research in Thailand.
Mm.
So I lived actually in Bangkok for 6 months.
Oh,
I've
nice.
studied international economics and economical geography. So I went to Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, and yeah, I really liked it. It was amazing, and it was the first time for me in Asia, and that was very very special because I grew up in Gouda, so maybe you know Gouda cheese.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
some viewers know.
So
Yeah,
it's
okay. So
actually pronounced as Gouda and not Gouda?
it is pronounced. Here it comes again. The Gouda.
Gouda. Right. Okay,
Gouda.
okay.
But in English it's Gouda. So I grew up in Gouda, Gouda, and it was in the 80s, and there were not many Asian people around at that time, and most Asians were, funny enough, having a Chinese restaurant. So there were some Asian people, but there were restaurant owners, or in the food sector, but there were, yeah, almost only white people, so white kids in my class, and I was really the first and only Asian-looking kid. And for some reason, it always, sort of subconsciously felt like people were looking at me, and I didn't have bad experiences, nasty experiences. So I had a very nice childhood. So don't get me wrong, but somehow everywhere I went, I was the only one not white, right? So it's sort of a feeling. And when I got to Thailand for the first time, when I landed there, I got out of the airport, and I was like, holy shit, there are only people looking like me, with brown
Yeah,
hair
yeah.
and with not blonde, not blue eyes. And I could sort of, disappear in a crowd. And it was the first time actually in my life that I could disappear in a crowd and not
Whoa.
having the feeling that I stand out, or stood out. So that was really, it was really amazing. So I had a really nice time in there in Thailand. And well, as I said, I like food, I like cooking, and the Thai food is really, really brilliant. It's well, you've been to Phuket, right? And
Yeah.
you got to sample some Thai food, and
Nah,
you liked it, right?
it's not to hate on Filipino food for the Filipino listeners right now, but they kind of do it better there, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
yeah,
let me, since we're talking about traveling and such, let me go out and show you a picture. I think this picture is really funny, right? Um, this picture I think was taken in one of the conventions that you went to. Am I right? Yeah. Um,
yeah.
how how important is it for one to continue the pursuit of knowledge? The pursuit of learning more information about the world of crypto.
Yeah, well, I think it's very, very important. And this picture was actually taken in Lisbon when I got to the non-fungible conference. So it was inside, and there were people dressed, like
It looks like
dressed
a
up like this.
crazy party.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was really funny, and I don't even know who they were whether they were, for a project or from the organization or just some local artist. I don't know, but it looked really funny. So it's actually very, very important, especially in the crypto sector, because it's a very young sector. It's not even 10 years old. Well, of course it's older. Bitcoin exists longer than that, but it took off really with the ICO hype, 2016, 2017, something like that. So it's
Hmm.
relatively very young. And now with the NFT space, it's again the same cycles we're going through now. So it's very, very important to look around and try to learn from others and have an open mind, because it's all new. And going to conferences or going to other cultures, yeah, it can really help, because then you are confronted with different opinions, or, well, not really, like, it's a different culture, and maybe not per se a different opinion, but there are slight nuances caused by the cultural differences, and I think it's very good to be open to that and to appreciate that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Learning is very important, especially in the NFT space, because 10 days from now, what you know may not be true anymore, right?
Exactly.
So you really have to, keep yourself up to date and, devoting your life and your time to learning this. It can be really beneficial in order for you to take a project to the next level. Now,
Absolutely.
I'm not really a travel junkie myself, you know, and sometimes I feel like I'm missing out on life because I don't travel a lot. I'm actually afraid of riding airplanes, you know.
Ah. Mm.
So it's really weird. And in your travels, I'd like to know personally, in your travels, is there like a place where you have experienced a transcendent feeling of freedom or enlightenment? Can you share with us, the listeners, well, how does that feel and where did that take place?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. I had many of these moments, and I'm not sure if this really has to do with the culture where you're in, but for me, also traveling alone. So when I went to Thailand and lived in Bangkok for the first time, it was my first time actually also being alone, and being in a foreign country. Yeah, felt like, almost like starting over. So for me, it was really a feeling of being free, and there was no one there that could relate to me, that had a history with me. So it felt really like free to do a restart, a sort of a reset. Not that I was looking for that, so I wasn't running away for people or situations or errors or mistakes. Of course, I make mistakes, but it wasn't. These are not that serious that I needed to flee the country or something. But what I mean is, nobody knows that you're there. Nobody has some judgments about who you are, what you did, or what you said. And for me, it was really like, wow, that really gave a feeling of freedom and possibilities. And finally, going back to the Netherlands also gave me the same, well, not the same exact feeling, but also gave me a moment of like, okay, I miss something, because going back to a place where you live for a long period, if you live in an outside country and you go back, then you can see some things that you otherwise wouldn't, well, or forgot or are not open to see. And sort of like count your blessings, right? So I worked for LG. Actually, I forgot to tell about, when I'm Korean and I'm adopted, and in 2007 I went back to South Korea for the first time.
Nice.
I wanted to experience the food, of course, and also the culture. And then I also decided to find or at least try to search my birth family, so my biological family, and I managed to find them. So I actually found my Korean dad and my Korean mother and a brother and a sister, and it was wow, yeah, it's exciting, emotional roller coaster. It was really really great. And well, my father died unfortunately, I think 4 years ago. But my mother's still alive, and my brother is there, and my sister, and I have nieces, and I have a whole family in Korea. Really great. But of course, I'm Dutch, right? So when I live in the Netherlands, and it wasn't possible for me to relocate or to leave my friends and family here. So, but I wanted to do something with my Korean roots, and that's why I decided to work for a Korean company. And then I found LG Electronics. I think you know the company, especially in Asia. And I said, well, hey, listen, my name's Sangho. I'm Dutch, but adopted. I just found my birth family, and I want to experience the Korean culture. So for me, it's only possible from Europe to work, start working at a Korean company. And surprisingly, they said, wow, that's a great story. And we've never heard such a story from an applicant. But we dig it and we like it, and we'll make sure you can work here. So they created a job for me. And I started working with LG. And then it was great because I traveled, of course, to back and forth to Seoul for business, but also I could, see my family. I actually studied for 3 months at Sogang University to, learn Korean. So to all the Korean viewers, 안녕하세요. And I can speak a little bit more than that, but it's very difficult because it's such a different language compared to the Dutch or the Roman-based languages in Europe. So, but it's really fun to live and to study in Seoul. It's a great city. But when I worked for LG, I noticed that they are, and I have to be careful because there are a lot of Asians also watching, but the Asian people tend to like hierarchy. Or maybe they don't like it, but they work and live in a relatively more hierarchical organization than in the Netherlands. And that caused some problems for me because I look Asian. So when they see me, they think, okay, he's an Asian guy. But I think Dutch, right? So, and Dutch people tend to always question the things they need to do. So if you are my manager and you ask me, go create a website and this page you need to make, then I want to know why I should do that, or why should we do that at all as a company. So you sort of have to convince me in order to get me do it. And that's a bit exaggerated, of course. But and with the Korean, at least with LG, people just did what they were ordered to do. They didn't think for themselves. And I was like, okay, why should I do that? Is it important? and maybe I have a better idea, or we can do it a bit differently. So that caused some friction. And I think it's very good to think for yourself. So we're talking about the cultural differences, right? So I think there is a sort of in between that would be the best of both worlds. So I think a very good property or characteristic of the Asian culture is the work ethic, right? So they can work real hard. Well, I know I see it in our team with you and Pizza Pan and Div. You work and you get the things done. So that's what's really, really nice about the Asian culture. But what the Asian culture can use a bit more from the Western, or at least the Dutch culture, is a bit more thinking for yourself. And in our team, luckily, you do think for yourself. So we have, I think, the perfect balance. But there are a lot of people working in Asian companies, and maybe it's also a multinational thing. I don't know. But the big corporates, there are people there sitting and just do what they're ordered, and they just were. At one night, it was like 7 p.m. and I was like, "Okay, guys, see you tomorrow. I'm going home." And the whole team was sitting there, and I was like, "What are you doing here? Are you finished with your job?" Yeah, 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 yeah. And every time it was the same story, and I was like, "All right, but I'm going home." And finally, they dared answering me, "No, we can't go home because our boss is still here." So because the boss is here, they can't go home earlier than the boss, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you guys are crazy. It's ridiculous. If you're done with your work, go home, or even if you're not done with your work, then you work a bit harder tomorrow to catch up, right? So, and that's Dutch, right? So we can decide for ourselves and we
Yeah,
make our
yeah,
own
yeah.
decisions. So a bit of both, that would be the best. And I think in our team we have both. So
Well, we definitely complement each other there.
yeah,
The team dynamic that we have, we all have our strengths, we all have our opportunities, right? And we
yeah,
we all help each other out, to make Cryptopia a big, big success. Now,
absolutely.
you've talked a lot about your travels, right? And that's something that I really can't relate to, but I think this is something that we can relate to right now. You're right. As a fellow gamer, and I'm sure
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
everyone is really interested to know this.
yeah.
You mentioned that you are a video gamer, right? What
Yeah,
kind of games do you actually play?
everything that moves. So very easy. Everything that's on the screen, and there is movement, and you can score points or level up. That's what I play. And of course, I'm not really in the game in all games. Keep playing all the games, of course not. I dislike some games also, but well, in fact, I'm pretty much into many, many different genres. I started, I think I remember, what was it? Supaplex? Maybe you know it. It's well, you
Super.
have to Google it. Supaplex. It's really fun. It's sort of Pac-Man, but then different. And I played it with my little sister. It was crazy. It was a really, really nice game. But the real gaming experience came from, I think it was June 2,
Dune, yeah.
and later this is the RTS, right? So the real time
Yeah.
strategy game. And later I found out that there was actually a June 1, and that was more like an RPG kind of game,
Yeah.
not really a game, more like a
More like
story.
a wasteland kind of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I really liked it. So I played it after that. And oh yeah, another one, Descent. It's like a 3D shooter that you're in a spaceship and you can go into tunnels and you can go upside
Oh, that's
down, and
cool.
you need to find an entrance, or the how do you say it? You need to find an exit. So you have to find some keys and at another part of the maze and then fly back and stuff like that. And I really loved it. And I think Doom and Quake and stuff like that are maybe influenced by this game. So that's what I played, and of course, well, I named it already, Quake and Doom, Duke Nukem, of course. I played it a lot when I studied. With four PCs in one house with my friends. We played against each other. It was really, really fun. And I like the sort of turn-based games. I also like that. So the Heroes of Might and Magic, that's
Oh
really,
yeah.
really, really a huge title, and I really played that thousands of hours. I really loved it up until part 3. So I never got into 4 and 5 and the rest, and then I quit. But especially Heroes of Might and Magic 3, love it. Seriously, love
Yeah.
it.
I love the D&D aspect of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really
True.
great. And then in I think in 2004, I first got into like the online games, and actually, one of my first online games was Guild Wars, and for some reason, I stumbled upon sort of a preview weekend, and I got to play for one weekend, and you could only play
Yeah.
limited area, start area, and I was sold on it. It was crazy. The feeling, it's ah man, it's. I can still think about it, and I got such a nice feeling about it. And then I actually bought the game, so I pre-ordered, and then I was entitled to play the open or the beta weekends. So they were very famous, so you could play a whole weekend, and I played the whole weekend, day and night. And oh man, it was crazy. That was really really my game.
Yeah, it was really the golden age of gaming where
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, and of course the usual like the World of Warcraft and the Elder Scrolls and stuff like that. But also on the console, I love playing. I love playing Mario. I like playing with my sons. I have two kids. They beat me in everything, but still it's funny to do. Also Fortnite. I play Fortnite, and
oh wow,
well,
really?
I'm very bad at it because the controller is different from a mouse. I'm a
Yeah.
PC gamer more, so the aiming is ridiculously difficult with a controller, and with a mouse it's so much easier. Well, basically, I play anything. Yeah, when it's moving and it's on the screen, I like
Well,
it.
well, that's really cool. Having played a lot of games, it really is helpful in creating this knowledge base of how
Yeah,
a great game can be made, because you're able to go ahead and get this good thing from that, this good thing from that, and then
absolutely.
if you're
Yeah,
creating a game, right, you're able to mix this great concoction of all this great aspects of different games
absolutely,
into one
absolutely.
game that you really love, which is, I think,
Yeah. And in fact,
so.
especially the things you don't like. So there are many things to disliking with games, right? So
Well,
and especially
let
with the MMOs, I love MMOs, and
uh-huh.
I like crafting, but sometimes it's ridiculous that you have to physically in the game physically go to your vault or your bank and then grab stuff and then run back to the crafting station, and then you notice, oh no, I need something else, and you have to run back to your bank or your vault to grab stuff, run. It's only running. And so that's what I liked about Guild Wars 2. They said, okay, that's ridiculous, so you can always access your bag when you're crafting, and they're really trying to make the game
And
fun for you and easy for you, and not illogic, and I love that mindset. So that's really what I want to have in our game, and what I guard, and what I say, okay, we should really focus on that, make it a smooth experience, and luckily everyone is on the same page with that respect. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
yeah, true. There's only so much time that you have in a day.
Yeah,
So running through and from your vault, that
no,
saves a lot of time.
it's so annoying. It's so annoying. Yeah, yeah. Or
Absolutely
or if
true.
you need to craft something and then you need other stuff to go in as an input, right? And that input you can also craft. So then you need to open the window, close it, look back, and with Guild Wars 2, well, talking about it is a huge example. It's very easy to just you need to create a glove, and the glove contains two components, so you can
Yeah.
just click, and a new window sits on top of the old window with the
Mm-hmm.
component, and then it builds up until the point that, which is the lowest barrier, that you need leather, and to refine leather, and then you can just click, refine it, and then when it's done, you can then make the following component, the next, the next, the next, the next, up until the point that you can create the end product. And that's, in my opinion, brilliant. It's very
Absolutely.
easy. It's very, very logical. It's very visual. No people cursing like, what should I do? I'm lost. And
Yeah.
very easy, very nice. So that's really an example for me, like how we should do the crafting, or set up our supply chains. That is very easy, doesn't take you time going back and forth, open this window, open that window, and then you forget, what should I do in as an input. No, very easy. So cool.
Well,
I see you watching, like, okay.
well, this is the good thing about our chief, because he can really go on and on about a subject that he
Yeah.
really loves, and I really like
Yes.
that about him, because he's very passionate. You know, so And
Yeah.
speaking of Cryptopia, you and the founders met before Cryptopia.
Yeah. Life is really funny sometimes, you know?
Yeah, can you go ahead and share with us how that started?
Yeah,
What was the
absolutely.
journey
Yes.
like leading up to the creation of Cryptopia?
Yeah, well, do you got half an hour? Because it's really a long story and it involves many arcs in my life. I lived in Amsterdam for 10 years. So that's the capital of the Netherlands. And then I moved
Mm-hmm.
to Haarlem. And at the time, I was working for myself as a start. I tried to set up a startup
Mm-hmm.
in the food commerce. So when I started having the kids, I needed to better plan my household, right? Because kids are pretty demanding in time and energy, so you need to plan ahead. So what are you going to eat? Do your grocery shopping and stuff like that. And I hated it because it was a daily routine that should be far easier. Like I want to be able to say, okay, today I eat this meal, tomorrow that meal, and the day after this meal, put it on a grocery list, like a digital app or something like that, and then order it, or go to the shopping mall and then easily buy my ingredients. And if you plan it and you make the list and you say, okay, tomorrow I don't want to eat that pasta, I want to eat something else, swap it around and your list updates and the ingredients update and the route you have to walk into the supermarket updates. It should be possible, right? Because it's all digital and there were no apps like that. Well, now there are, but at that time, no. Or some half-assed apps like with a grocery list but not being able to update it, or not being able to save your recipes or add recipes or customize recipes. So that's why I decided to create my own. And I created my first models, sketches, designs, visual designs, interaction designs. And of course, I was no expert at it. So it was a pretty steep learning curve. And I lost a lot of money because I had it built 3 times in succession. But I learned a lot from it. So, and the beauty is that the startup never made it. So I failed, unfortunately. But what I learned from it is that when I moved to Haarlem,
Mm-hmm.
I, of course, talked with my neighbors and I met my neighbors. And then you ask, okay, what do you do for a living? And then I explained I was working with a lot of developers trying to get my own concept up and running. But there was a lot of struggles because they didn't understand what I wanted. And of course, it was also my fault because I was not clear enough in my requirement setting.
Yeah.
First time, I didn't know how to do that. But that resonated with my neighbor, and he said, "Okay, I'm in crypto, and we have a startup, an ICO." And I was like, my ears were like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" But I was very interested. Like, okay, this is something new, and I like
Mm-hmm.
new things, so I was really intrigued. And he explained Ethereum, and I knew Bitcoin, but I didn't know Ethereum, and so I did some research. And at some point, he said, "Hey, we are looking for a guy like you." Who can help us talk with the developers, sort of in between the development, marketing, strategy. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. I want to be in a new sector. So my neighbor actually, is the brother of Hans. So our
Hmm.
co-founder,
Wow. That's
Hansco, is his brother,
it's a
and
very weird
Frank.
coincidence.
Yeah, it is really weird. Yeah, and Frank, so our founder now, was the founder of that startup in 2017. So yeah, by moving from Amsterdam to Haarlem and talking about my failed startup, I actually got into another startup and worked there. So that's how I met them in real life and worked together with them. So it's really funny how things go, right? It's coincidence. It's
Yeah,
really
so
coincidence. Yeah.
that's a really cool story because usually when a CEO is hired, they're not really part of the people who created the project, right? They
No,
just they
no.
just got hired by the
Yeah,
founders.
yeah, yeah.
So
Or they founded it themselves, right? So they are the
yeah,
founder
true.
and CEO. This, yeah,
So with
correct.
with Cryptopia, how did you guys create that mix? How did that blend in with you guys?
Yeah, well, we had an ICO, and well, let me tell a bit about that. So in 2016, 17, they did an ICO, and I was not involved then, and they wanted to democratize venture capital. So venture capital, of course, is trying to find projects high risk, but if it's a success, there can also be a high reward. Like
Yeah, yeah,
think about
yeah.
Uber and all the unicorns. But the normal people, the retail investors, so to say, never have access to these projects. So it's always professional parties with a lot of money. But blockchain technology, especially with smart contracts and in the DAO structure, makes it possible, of course, to also have many small investors together investing a large sum. And also, because of the smart contracts, you can easily vote in a DAO structure, vote on, what projects should we support or should we invest
Mm-hmm.
in. So Frank had a whole idea about using blockchain technology, Ethereum, smart contracts to democratize that. And well, in the end, the regulation was so bad for us that we could not really do all the things we wanted. And in the end, we also decided, okay, what's left of the money of the fund, we give it back to the community, also by the DAO, so that people could vote. What should we do? Should we pursue and do another project with the money that's left? Or should we say, okay, we tried our best and it's not possible now. And what's left, we divide it over the investors. And they voted to disband and get the money back. And I think it's pretty unique as a startup to fail, but also give money back to the people.
Yeah,
What's that
that's very
in the
admirable,
treasury?
you guys. Yeah, that.
Yes, of course, because we really want to finish it in a decent way, in a good way, and be honest and being able to look each other into the eye and say, okay, we did what we could and we failed, but okay, we learned a lot, but at least this is how it ends, right? And we all went our own way a bit. And Frank then was developing a game, and he already let me know via Skype or maybe on the phone. I don't know. I can't recall. But he said, yeah, it's like Age of Empire style. I didn't mention Age of Empire. I also like that game, of course, Age of Empire, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's
building a
very cool.
nation,
It's a very cool
pursuing
game. I love
technology.
that too.
It's really nice. It's really nice. Yeah, yeah. And what did you play it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Back in the days. I
Ah,
don't know
okay.
what Age of Empires was that, but I did play it. I
All
like the
right.
Roman Empire, and then you be
Exactly.
able to
Okay.
attack the other nation, Egypt.
Yeah.
I always love to play with Egypt, so it
I
was
want
really
to ask you
cool.
which party you play, but you play the Roman. I usually play Genghis Khan, with the Asian.
Oh wow.
I like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And well, so he was working that and on the blockchain. So he also told me I'm going to create a game, Age of Empire like on the blockchain. And I was like, okay, wow, how's that gonna work? And I was curious, but he never showed it to me. But I went my own way. I did something completely different. Um, I went to pursue a career as a teacher at a primary school. So that's a whole different story for later. Maybe we have some time. And then in December last year, he phoned me and he said, "Okay, I'd like to show you something." And I was like, "Okay, cool, show me." And then he showed the proof of concept of Cryptopia. And I was like, okay, wow, this is really, really insane. And it didn't look very nice, but it showed the possibilities, right? So it showed all the possibilities that we can do on the blockchain and with the NFTs. And well, don't have to explain it to you, but he was just working for 2 years on this project. So for 2 years, he and Hans, later Hans was also involved, and they bootstrapped themselves. So they funded themselves. They did not have any other job. So they just coded, or at least Frank coded, and Hansco helped him, organize stuff. So I was really impressed, and I was okay, Frank. This is really cool, but I'm teaching, so I'm a teacher. I have a class of kids. So can I do something for you? What do you like me to do? And he said, yeah, I'd like you to be the CEO again. And I was like, okay, can it be part time? Of course it can't, but I tried. And he said, no, I'm sorry, that's not possible. So I had to make a really, really hard decision, difficult decision, what to do. But in the end, I can be a teacher, in 10 years, I can still be a teacher, but in 10 years, maybe there's not an opportunity like this to become a CEO of such
True.
a revolutionary game in such a revolutionary time. So that's why I decided to join Cryptopia. So that's again, it was coincidence. Well, not really coincidence because we know each other from previous projects and we know each other because we're friends. So, But yeah, it's really nice to be back in Cryptopia with the old gang, so to say. And yeah, it's fun to work together again. Yeah.
And so the legend of Cryptopia was born.
Yes,
Indeed.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just like to go ahead and highlight something here. When you guys failed with your original project, I think it takes a lot of courage to say that we did fail, that we need
Yes.
to do the smart thing and stop and
Yeah.
just return all the investments to the investors. I think
Yeah.
that's really courageous of you guys, and I want to highlight that. And because some people, they just want to keep banging their heads on the wall, thinking that the wall would
Yeah.
eventually
Yeah. Yeah.
break,
Yeah.
right? Uh,
Yes,
and
of course. Yeah.
and I think that you guys did the smart thing to do, to stop at some point and then regroup. And
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
when Frank regrouped, you regrouped, you guys did your own thing. You guys, when you guys came back, you guys are able to go ahead and create something much better.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. So we learned, right? So,
mhm.
back in 2017, it was also a new era with the ICOs, and it was also everyone was looking for, how to do it correctly, and there were many. So there are many parallels with the NFT period now, and now we're in the bear market. So it's almost similar, right? And there's so many parallels, so many junk and so many shit, excuse me for the words, and so many scammers and only people looking for money, 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 money.
Yeah,
And that's amazing. It makes you sick sometimes because the result is that they give you such a bad name that it reflects on you. So if I tell that I'm in NFT, I'm building a game, people are like, oh no, it's a
yeah,
Ponzi scheme. And then I really have to take effort to convince them that yes, there are a lot of Ponzi schemes and rug pulls and what have you, but we are not like them. We're different. We actually build, and we are not depending on hype, and we're not depending on creating hype to get funding. No, we're already funded. We just build, build, build. But we learned a lot. Especially what we learned was having a community very early on without a real product is not a wise combination, and it's not something you should aspire as a startup, especially in a sector where people want to be rich within 5 seconds, right? So it is really terrible. So people were, oh, we were only busy managing the community, managing expectations, and a lot of time and energy went to that instead of
hmm
creating a product or service and actually look for partnerships and make it happen. So that's what we learned from then, and that's also the reason why Frank and Hans decided to be very low profile while
yeah,
building it out. And that's also why I said when I joined, we have to be very very slow in growing our community, and I
yeah,
don't want to have the same experience as 4 years ago. And they agreed, and that's what we learned from our previous project. So failing is indeed, it's never fun, and you're also not doing it intentionally. It's something that happens. And also what I experienced from my personal ventures is that as a business owner or startup owner, you also have to be a bit crazy, right, and stubborn. Otherwise you're not going to do it. But at some point you need to be yeah, fair and open to yourself and say, okay, it's not going to work, so I have to pull the plug. And then it's also very nice to have either a good team around you with people who you can trust and are also feeling comfortable to tell you, okay, so
yeah,
no, sorry guy, but it's not going to work, we should stop. Or you should have very good friends that can tell you the truth. And if it's both in one team, like a good friend and a good teammate, then it's perfect, of course. So that's what we have indeed. We have a very nice mixture of people in our team. We have a shared history, and we are on the same page. We learned a lot, and a lot of the things that went wrong there, we try to avoid now, of course. And some things we can't avoid, like the regulation. It's very difficult for us to dodge, and that's something we have to live with and deal with. But all the other things, in managing, in expectations, in funding, in investors, community, yeah, it's very helpful that we have a prior experience together. Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm really happy that you guys really gelled together. Throughout your years together, you've learned a lot. Um, your relationship has grown. You've matured with them. But
Yep.
right now, I want to go ahead and transition to knowing more about you, right?
Hmm.
Back in your university days, you were studying economics, right?
Yes.
Cool. Because I'm interested, how did your knowledge of economics influence the actual economy that we're going to build in Cryptopia?
Oh, very, very much.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, yeah. No, it's economics is often just a matter of thinking straight. Yeah, and it sounds very cheesy, but apply logic. So sorry for all the economists out there. I'm sorry to call you out, to bash on you. No, I'm not gonna bash on you, but of course there is much more to it, and it can be very complex. But the basics are like supply and demand. And it's not really that hard. But I think what I bring to the table is focus on the concept of value. So value in terms of time, in terms of game assets, monetary assets, and if you understand that, then I believe you can create a very good game. And game is in fact the same as like a service or a product, and
Hmm.
and you provide something in return for money. So people buy it from you, and the exchange should be then beneficial to both of you, right? So
Yeah.
you as a player or a buyer or a client, you should have fun, or you should get some value out of it in exchange for your money or your crypto or your time. And as long as you keep that in mind, you can create good gaming loops or game loops. And if you focus too much on extracting the value from that player or customer, then it's not going to work. And maybe it's going to work if you design your loops in that way that they really need to go through the pain and the grind. And and we all been there, right? Grinding is not fun. In a
No.
way, sometimes it is. Put your favorite music on and just grind and kill the same enemy over and over again until you get the drop. Can be fun. Well, it's not for now. At this moment in my life, it's a waste of my time. So I'm not doing it. But I've been there and I know what it is, and so I understand that. And that's a choice you can make, but I don't think we should go for that in Cryptopia. So don't be afraid. We're not going to grind. You don't have to grind it in Cryptopia. But what I mean is, you have to understand that people invest time or money, and they need something in return. And it doesn't have to be balanced like one-on-one exchange of value. It can be less what you offer, as long as they feel that they can progress, and in the next iteration or in the next game loop can balance it off. And that's very important. And I think if you can understand that, and I think the economics study
Hmm.
is helping, because then you are able to view the larger picture or create models, and see how the several elements fit together into one flow or one model. And I think that benefits me now, in conceptualizing Cryptopia and the game economy, and that you can change something downstream, but it has an effect upstream. And yeah, I think that in that respect, it really helps me. So it's not a requirement, but it's a nice to have. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you right there, Chief. Actually, I went into this Twitter space last Saturday, I think. Yeah. They were talking about NFTs and how people are flipping it. You know, some
Yeah.
games they revolve the game around the NFT. But what I love about Cryptopia, we're not revolving the game around the NFT. The
No.
NFT is just a vehicle for the players to play or to complement the game. But
Yeah.
our game is complete by itself. You don't actually need most of the NFTs in order for you to play the game, right?
No, no, except the ship, of course, because otherwise you drown, right? So you need the star, but you get it, right? So if
Yeah,
you
you
play our
get it for
game,
free, right?
you
Yeah.
get it for free, exactly. And it's up to you if you think. And again, with the concept of value, if you think it can offer you value, and it's valuable to you, then you can decide to invest some of your money or the in-game rewards, because you can earn in our game, right? So you can also save up the in-game rewards and buy a better ship, so you have better stats, so you can go somewhere faster, or you can carry more cargo.
Yeah.
So it's all up to you. But in that sequence, right? So I think it's very important to not let people invest upfront and then figure out whether they like your
Yeah,
game or
that's
not.
true.
And
That's
so
true.
that's unfair. That's not a fair exchange of value at that point in time. So we shouldn't aim for it. So, and luckily we don't. So you can play our game for free, see if it's a fit for you, and if it's a fit, then you can decide to spend more time in the game, and see how it progresses, how you can level. Do you like the mid-level game? Maybe you don't like the mid-level game. Well, then it's not for you, right? So and you are always in control. You never have to invest, so that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've been talking to a lot of my friends recently about our game, and I've been shilling the heck out of our game, and I've
Very
explained
good.
to them the different gameplays that we have. We have the adventurer, the tycoon. You could buy a digital land and build a gold mine or something like that, a
Yeah,
factory,
very
a
nice.
power
Yeah.
plant, and they're always giving this face. They don't believe me, and I
Yeah.
can't blame them, because to me personally, I think our game is ambitious, almost too ambitious. It's like we're crazy for doing
Yeah.
this. How
Yeah.
how does Cryptopia remain grounded in its approach, Chief?
Yeah, well, we are very ambitious and we're almost crazy indeed. If you look from the outside to the to our team or the things we want to do, and but we have a brilliant, very very brilliant developer. Frank is really brilliant. We have trust in him that he can pull it off. So all the things we want to do are indeed very ambitious, but also possible. And because Frank, yeah, we trust him, so he knows whether it's possible or not. And if he says it is, then it is. And he's very open. He says because it's blockchain technology, experimental, and we're going to being faced with certain bugs or difficulties that we cannot foresee now, but we can solve it.
Absolutely.
So that's really nice. And being grounded. Well, the most important thing is always focus, and that's also what I focus on. Is like there are so many things and so many possibilities, and truly it is exciting, and it is very nice to be able to do all the things and more, and work together and introduce other projects and other NFTs and pirates. Yeah, and at the end of the day, you have so many things, and what's the progress then, right? So, and in development terms, it's like feature creep, right? So you keep adding stuff, and in the end, you don't understand it anymore because it's too complex, or something breaks in one of these features with effect on the other features with effect on your core engine and stuff like that, and that's not what we want to do. So we really apply focus. That's the most important thing. So what we need to do now is we need to build for the open beta. It's Q3, right? So it's July, the 1st of July now. So we enter the third quarter, and this quarter we said to ourselves we want to start the open beta. So that's what we built for, and that means that we want to have a supply chain set up so you can start up the game.
Yeah.
You have your boat, you can sail around, you can claim land. If there are resources in the land, you can use a blueprint, and then you know what you need to build a facility on that land to extract the resources. And with the resources, you can build a facility. So that is only a very small part of the gameplay, of course, but that's what we focus on now. So that's what we want to build. And once that's ready, then we can say, okay, now it's ready for the early access ship holders to start playing our open beta. This is what you can play and nothing more. So we're not going to bother about creating mini DAOs. We're not going to bother about you creating a swap or a DEX or a DeFi center. No, it's only this part. And once that's done, then it's very easy to expand or to change it into other supply
Yeah.
chains. So focus is really, really the key here. But on the other hand, as with pirates, well, the community was crazy about pirates, and they want
Yeah.
pirates this and pirates that, and bounty hunters, and we thought, wow, that's actually a pretty nice idea, and that's why we decided to implement it. But it's not eating all our time, and we knew, okay, this we can implement. It will take a couple of weeks for us. Do we do it or not? And then we said, yes, we're gonna do it. We
Yeah.
accepted 2 week delay in the other plans, and let's go for it. So we do have minor adjustments, and you have to be flexible, of course, but Main thing is focus, focus, focus. Yeah.
Hence the pirate week that we have right now. So
Hence the Pirate Week and my background with the really
there
beautiful move around. You need,
you go.
it's nice, right?
The Skull Island.
It's really nice. It's
Ab-
the logo of Cryptopia with a skull in it. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Frank is a genius, right? We all know that.
Yes.
But with, like I said, I believe this, in every great plan, you need an even better execution, right? So with that being said, how does having a great leader drastically improve the success of any project, not just Cryptopia, by any project?
Yeah. I think it's very it's like it's a ABC, right? So if you don't have great leadership, you can't really get far, or you can't really achieve ambitious goals. And what I learned from my professional career, so outside of Cryptopia or outside the startup, is
Mhm.
that if you let people make their own decisions, you get quality output, quality work. So people really know what they want or how they should do stuff. And so as a leader or as a manager, you really shouldn't tell them how to do it or build in procedures uh, in such a way that they can't make decisions for themselves anymore. And I think that's important and also very frightening, because you have to hand over a large part of control to your employees, to your staff, and trust them that they know what's best. So they do the work, right, every day, again and again. And maybe this goes more for the client-facing jobs, like the customer service, or maybe in the retail. These people, if you give them the authority to make decisions, right? So if there's a problem and they are allowed to make a decision up to like $1,000, let's use a figure, then again, perfectly fine, get all the things done, right? So an angry customer, what do you think? An angry customer, and you say, I'm sorry, I can't do anything because my boss is not allowing me, and I need to escalate, and I need to go to the second line support and team leader, and no way. And imagine that person can say, yes, oh, I feel so sorry, and we made a terrible mistake, and I'm gonna refund you, and here's a gift check, and wow, that angry customer is turning into probably the most loyal supporter of you. But it's only possible if you allow that employee, that customer facing staff, to make their own decisions up to some point, and not have to sign 20 forms and ask for a signature to be able to refund or give a check or give a gift, right? So I believe with great leadership is trust your people and let them do what they can do best. Of course, it shouldn't be an energy, and of course, as a leader, you have a vision, and you want to make sure that people adhere to the vision, or that
Right.
all the people in an organization, all the things they do together, at the end roll up, and then you go into the right direction, right? So that's the task you have to do. That's why you are there, because the customer facing people or the developers are not able to do that, or are not paid to do that, right? So they focus on what they can do, and you should have the overview. And I believe great leadership should be giving direction, of course, but also let people do what they do best, and that is excel. So you make great videos, you do a podcast. You didn't have to convince us, right? We had something like, okay, man, you can do it, do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
We're very happy that you can make videos, and we see that you're good at it. And we're not going to tell you how to make it, or
Yeah.
how to cut it, or how to do it. No, it's up to you. You can do it. We trust you. So, and if I'm really, really, appear bad in this podcast, of course, I'm going to take you off it, right? Then you're off it.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Chief, I really do admire your leadership style. All right. Last question for the night, Chief. This is a very easy one. What is your advice for aspiring CEOs and managers who want to dive into the managing of an NFT project?
Hire you and me and Frank. Then you have a good team. No. What I advise them is, well, actually, what I explained about leadership, and that you have to allow people to do what they do best, and have trust in your employees, and not being distrustful and try to control them and control their work and monitor their work. Of course, you need to monitor, but you need to monitor, whether you're going to end up at the point on your horizon where you want to be. So that's your job. That's your job. So make sure that everything adds up together to that point. But how they do it, it's not up to you. So your staff knows best. So give them freedom and trust, so they can do their best, and of course keep an open mind. And I believe that's even more important. Be open, because it's a new space. There are new projects popping up. There are many other brilliant people out there in this sector having great ideas, and you can learn from it, right? And these people are not like the corporate traditional sector, like keeping everything for themselves and trying to benefit from the knowledge and stuff like that. No, everyone shares, and everyone
Yeah.
is trying to get there together. And so there's no reason not to be open and
I,
benefit from it.
I have noticed this about the NFT community. In the NFT community, everything is for free. Everyone is very open to how my project was successful. You can go ahead and do this and that to get to where I am right now.
Yeah,
And that's what I
absolutely.
love about the community that we have, right?
Yes, yes, me too. Yeah, absolutely. So that vibe, and we're all gonna make it, right? And it's actually really we're all going to make it. So the people who are are really willing to share the knowledge. Of course, you're not gonna share your deepest secret code, and Frank is also not sharing that, right? But he's also open to help other projects,
Yeah.
by giving away, and of course in return for something like a co-op, not freely giving away because it's really valuable, his code, but he is willing to help other projects that need, for instance, a multi-sig wallet, a Unity game that wants to be a blockchain game but doesn't have a wallet or needs to integrate with a wallet. Yeah, they can talk with us, if it's a nice project and we like the vibe and we like the people, because it's also really, really important. You have to like the people, right? If it's an asshole, you're not going to work together with him, and you're not going to help him. It's easy as that, right? So let's be honest. We are open for partnerships, and we want to help other people. But if they're assholes, we don't want to. We don't want to work together. And but that's life, right? If you behave like an asshole, you can't expect other people to be very kind to you. So if you're kind and open, you can expect the same thing in return from other projects. So answer your question,
Yeah.
aspiring CEOs and managers in an NFT project is be open and look around and try to work together, because we're all gonna make it together.
Absolutely. Wise words from Chief himself. Thank you very much for being here on stage right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure the listeners have learned a lot from you. Is there any updates with Cryptopia right now that you could share with the listeners?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure when is this gonna be published, this podcast.
Today on Monday,
On Monday. Ah, okay. So that coincides with our Pirate Week, right? So
Pirate Week. Yeah.
yeah. So Pirate Week. So yeah. So prepare for Pirate Week. This is gonna be really great, and we have some nice surprises for you. And yeah, the pets, of course. I think we also communicated that, right? So
Yeah.
actually we already rewarded them, as a free NFT as a prize. So that will be also in the works, and we are going to have a call soon with XI Infinity. So that's also very interesting.
Whoa.
Yes,
Big
yes,
news
yes.
there from the Chief. He
Yeah,
dropped it. That's
yeah,
actually a very
yeah.
well kept secret among the team, but the Chief dropped it right now.
Yes.
Chief, before you share any more secrets within the team, can you go ahead and share with everyone where they can reach you, where they can talk to you, and stuff like that?
Yes, absolutely. Well, of course, you can also always reach me via the team. So our email address, our general email address, info@cryptopia.com. You can find me on Twitter. I can use some followers, so I have to work on my Twitter audience. So that's @Chieftopia. So if you like it, yeah, follow me, and I will try to tweet more and more often. That's also a promise, Laudi. Write it down. I promise to the team. I will tweet more and more often. And of course, I'm in Discord in our community, so you can find me there. And of course, on LinkedIn, just type in my unique combination of Korean, first name and a Dutch last name. So there are not many Sangho Grollemans on the world. So it's very easy to find me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Chief. I'm sure after this video, you will gain a lot of followers on your Twitter account. I'm sure everyone learned a lot today. Thank you again for having us here.
Yes, thank
Um,
you.
all right. You can go ahead and do the goodbyes, Chief, if you want.
Yes, all right. So thank you very much, Laudi. Thank you very much for hosting it. Thank you for having this great idea to create a podcast at the first place because I think it's brilliant. Actually, I have another nice news item. I have a guy from the Solana community who is willing to be featured as an external guest in our podcast.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
we'll be in touch about that. So we have to plan it. But he's a really nice guy. I met him in Lisbon. So again, traveling does sometimes have some great rewards. He's a really nice guy about to play and earn games, and we're really on the same page. And only thing is, he works on the Solana chain. No, that's not true. He's also working on a project on Polygon, so that can be interesting for a potential collab as well between our projects. So very exciting. But I was saying goodbye. So thank you very much, Laudi. It's great to have a podcast. It's really fun to be on a podcast, and I hope the viewers and the listeners enjoy it and understand a bit about what we were talking about. I really do hope that you are, if you do not know Cryptopia and you happen to stumble upon this podcast, I hope we piqued your interest and you go to cryptopia.com and check out our project. And Laudi, we didn't even talk about the uniqueness of our project, right? So we didn't explain what we are, and it was just only about me and
This
the
is all.
history.
This is all about you, Chief. Because
Yeah, yeah. I
the
feel a
goal of
bit.
this podcast is for us to
I feel a
introduce
bit.
the brains behind Cryptopia.
I'm blushing. I can't blush as an Asian guy, right? But I'm blushing now. But if you do not know about Cryptopia and you're interested, I hope you are interested now and can find some time to check us out. We have many videos, we have many blog posts, and we record our AMAs. We also have other teammates. We tell about our project, explain, and yeah, I hope to see you in our Discord and maybe even online in Cryptopia. Let's sail together or let's loot together as a pirate.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everyone. This is on Spotify and on YouTube. Thank you very much for listening in. See you next week for more Cryptopia Cast. Bye.
Bye.